The Chocolate Tree, a Mayan Folktale. Written by Linda Lowery and Richard Keep. Illustrated by Janice Lee Porter. Music from Noche de los Mayas by Silvestre Revueltas.
Chocolate ice cream, warm cocoa, fudge, brownies. Can you imagine a world without chocolate? This is a folktale about how chocolate came to all of us on Earth. It begins nearly 1,000 years ago in a rainforest in Mexico. Among the chattering parrots and huge butterflies, there lived a special group of people. They were called the Maya. The Maya grew trees full of fruit. They had bees that gave them honey, but they did not have chocolate. Mayan farmers worked on farms called milpas. They grew beans and squash and sweet potatoes. They grew maíz, a type of corn. How did these crops get to Mexico? Well, that's an interesting part of the Mayan story. They came from paradise. A king named Kukulkan carried seeds for the crops all the way to earth from his home in paradise. Like the bird called the quetzal, he wore a cloak of colorful feathers. He looked like a man-sized bird. His skin glistened in the sun like a jungle snake's, so he looked like a serpent too. This made him mysterious and beautiful. He was not just a king, he was also a god. Paradise was home to all the gods, but Kukulkan spent most of his time on earth. Kukulkan loved the Mayan people. He wanted them to have their own paradise on earth. He had been especially happy when he gave them maíz. He taught the people to plant the corn seeds. He taught them to pick the crop when it was ripe. The Maya learned from Kukulkan how to smash the corn and flatten it into tasty tortillas. Maíz became their most important crop. Kukulkan gave the Maya everything they needed for a happy life. He gave them books to read. He gave them a calendar to keep track of the seasons and the stars. He gave the people music, and he taught them how to sing and dance. The Mayan people built a stone temple to show Kukulkan they were grateful for his gifts. They built it in the middle of their jungle city, Chichen Itza. The temple was shaped like a pyramid. It had 91 steps. The steps were steep, like a ladder to the sky. On the top was a stone house. It faced the morning star. It became Kukulkan's home on earth. Every day the Maya worked and played and sang. They knew that each dawn, when they saw the morning star, Kukulkan would come down from the temple to watch over his people. What a wonderful life the Maya had in the green jungle with Kukulkan as their leader. But every happy story has a dark side too. And now it's time for you to meet Night Jaguar. He too was a god from paradise. He and Kukulkan were twin brothers, but they were as different as night and day. Kukulkan, like the daylight, was warm and friendly. Jaguar, like the night, was cool and fearsome. Night Jaguar shared his brother's temple in Chichen Itza. When the evening stars shone, Night Jaguar kept watch from the temple. At the end of each day, the Mayas stopped their work on the milpas. They headed back to their nas, their little homes. Night Jaguar ruled the night. His job was to put the sun to bed and to protect the city during the dark nights. He did not wear a cloak or beautiful feathers. Some people say he wore jaguar fur. Others say he was a real jaguar. He was fierce and very good at his job. Every night when the people were sleeping, he crept out his doorway. He prowled the streets, passing palaces and temples. He studied the Mayan carvings of the stars. He stalked the empty marketplace. At night, the city was very quiet. The only sound was the rustle of palm trees in the moonlight. "I am the Night Jaguar," he announced to the sky. But who was listening? Birds slept. People snored. Children dreamed in their beds. As Night Jaguar prowled, he thought, why did the Maya deserve the gifts of music and corn and books? He believed the gods should keep the best treasures in paradise. Otherwise, the Maya might become as great as the gods. Maybe he was selfish. Maybe he was not the giving type. Maybe he thought his brother had already given the Maya too much. Still, Night Jaguar guarded the city every night. When the sun rose, he crept up the temple steps until the evening star shone again. As Night Jaguar rested, he smiled a secret grin. I know one thing the Maya will never have, he thought. And what was that? Chocolate, the gods' favorite food. Dawn came. Kukulkan woke to the singing sound of his people's voices. Heaps of fruit sat at his doorstep. Bundles of vegetables sat next to the fruit. Clay pots and woven baskets held the food. These were gifts from the hard-working Mayan people. I want the Mayans to have something special, he thought. Kukulkan knew he must return to paradise for this special gift. The task would not be easy. He knew Night Jaguar would not be happy. Kukulkan would have to sneak off while his brother was sleeping. When the sun was high in the sky, he spread his mighty wings. Off he flew to paradise. He arrived just in time for a fancy dinner. Music played, banana trees swayed in the breeze. Kukulkan strolled past the butterflies and through the gardens. Nearly all of his family sat at the table. They welcomed him. More than 100 gods had come to the dinner. On his right was the goddess of the moon. To his left was the god Chak. Chak ruled the rain. The gods feasted on papayas, mangoes, and melons. They ate tall stacks of corn tortillas. They poured cup after cup of foamy chocolate called chocolatl. The gods had honey to sweeten the chocolate. They used chilies to spice it up. Kukulkan finally decided to speak. The Maya are good people, and they deserve a special gift, he said. I want to bring them. Suddenly all the gods became silent. Everyone stopped eating. They sat down their jade goblets. They listened. I want to bring them a chocolate tree, said Kukulkan boldly. Instantly there was an uproar. Gods began shouting. Goddesses argued. He wants to share our finest treasure with the Maya? Asked one. I think it's only fair, said another. Kukulkan stood and left the table. He went into the garden, away from the noise. He sat beneath a cacao tree to think. Chocolate will bring the people happiness, he thought. My happy people will grow wise and create a paradise on earth. Yet, was it right to share this treasure of the gods? Kukulkan pondered the question. Hundreds of cacao trees grew in paradise. Every tree had many pods. Every pod had nearly 60 seeds inside. Why not share the wealth, he decided. The gods shuffled off to bed, grumbling. Some agreed with Kukulkan, some thought it was a terrible idea. But Kukulkan made up his mind. He waited until everyone was sleeping. Then he found a small cacao tree. It was loaded with red pods. He snatched the tree up, roots and all. He looked round to be sure no one was watching. Then he raced through the garden, past the waterfalls. He flew up a rainbow. He jumped onto the morning star. Whoosh! The star sped him back to earth. Night Jaguar saw the morning star appear in the sky above Chichen Itza. He dashed to the top of the pyramid. He hid in the shadows. He knew his brother had been to paradise. He was suspicious. As Kukulkan flew down to his temple, Night Jaguar watched. He saw something beneath his brother's robe of quetzal feathers. What was it? Kukulkan stood atop the temple and sang to summon the Mayan people. Children and men and women came hurrying. They surrounded the temple. My people, said Kukulkan. His voice was magic. It carried far into the jungle. From beneath his feathered cloak, he pulled out the tree. He lifted it above his head. What is it? Everybody asked. It is a cacao tree, Kukulkan said. Kukulkan came down the steps to show his new treasure. From deep in the shadows, Night Jaguar growled. He paced back and forth, fuming. How dare his brother bring the gods' favorite food to these people? Down below, the Maya were excited. Kukulkan pulled a red pod off the tree. With a knife, he whacked it in half. It was full of seeds that looked like white almonds. The people knew that corn grew from hard, yellow seeds, avocados grew from big, round seeds, papayas grew from slippery, black seeds, so what would grow from these soft, pale seeds? Chocolate, said Kukulkan. The beans make the most delicious drink you can imagine. He showed the people how to plant the seeds. They needed a place with both a little shade and a little sun. The trees will grow quickly, he said to the Maya, and then I will show you how to make chocolatl, the drink of the gods. Kukulkan heard a snarl from the temple. He strode up to the steps. He needed to make peace with his brother about the gift, but when he got to the top of the temple, Night Jaguar was gone. He had already leaped away into the thick jungle. Kukulkan sighed. He knew exactly what Night Jaguar was planning. He would tell the gods that Kukulkan had stolen the cacao tree. What would happen when they found out? Suddenly the sky grew dark. Thunder boomed. Bolts of lightning slashed the fields. The people ran for shelter. Kukulkan stood atop his Chichen Itza temple. He heard the anger and the thunder. It came from paradise. The gods knew. Now the Maya had the gods' favorite food. They would plant many chocolate trees. They would carry the seeds from the fruit to the north, the south, the east, and the west. Earth would become a paradise. Kukulkan, roared the gods' voices, we are outraged. You will never, ever set foot in paradise again. And so, Kukulkan did not return to paradise. At harvest time, he taught his people to gather the cacao seeds. Some would grow new trees, others would be used to make chocolate. Kukulkan showed them how to dry the beans in the sun and roast them over a fire. He taught them to use a metate, a stone, to grind the beans with maize into a powder. He celebrated with his people when they drank chocolate for the first time. Mayan families were soon drinking chocolatl at every meal. Cacao seeds spread far and wide. People all across Earth discovered chocolate. Thanks to chocolate, the world is a sweeter place. So next time you have a sip of warm cocoa, a bite of fudge brownie, or a spoonful of chocolate ice cream, just think of how lucky you are. Think of Kukulkan riding to Earth on the morning star to bring chocolate to the Mayan people.